Hey guys, welcome to another analysis for this week's transcription. Today we're going to take a look at George Whitty's solo on first tune of the set. I think it's a very cool solo. There's lots to learn from it. There's some cool things to take away, I think. So let's go right ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go until there. We have an F minor vamp, and he starts off in F minor. I've notated an overview of all the things going on in a separate file, which I'll include in the attachment. But we start in F minor, and then quickly he goes into this figure, which I've labeled F13 sharp 11, because it has a 13 and... F13 sharp 9, excuse me, it's 13 and a sharp 9. And it's something that Bob Berg uses as well in his opening solo on Chromosome. If you don't know the thing. So that repeating pattern when he uses it and as well in the other lines it has that same concept that he uses to include both the major and the minor third of the chord, and it's like a diminished kind of thing from the diminished scale. It's a very cool technique or concept or color, whatever. And then back to George. Here, this whole thing I labeled B9 because that's pretty much the notes he's using. Some little chromatic passing note here. But for the rest, it's all these notes which he uses. So we have like a tritone substitute over the F. And then he jumps back into that F7 sharp 9 sound. Yeah. Playing pretty diatonically in F Dorian. So F minor 6, F minor 6, B flat 7, they're related. F minor 6 is the same as B flat 9, so without the B flat. Whatever. Enclosure of thirds, yes. Idioms and mannerisms. This is something, I think it was the third exercise I posted last week of the pyramid scale challenge, where we go through these Barry Harris patterns. It's kind of the same thing. Like, these are trained patterns we get in our fingers and in our hands, and they just pop out. All these chromatic enclosures and chromatic approaches and all these little things are so, well, idiomatic and become a mannerism, and they just end up in your playing. They get there pretty fast, in my experience. And they are these very typical sounds, and they are just all over the place in this solo. And that's just a very typical piece of the vocabulary, these chromatic enclosures and chromatic approach nodes. As a quick explanation for those of you who don't know what an enclosure is, for example, like this C, it sounds an octave lower. So the C is enclosed by the D flat above it and the B below it. So this little D flat, B, C, that is called an enclosure, and it's a little melodic building block. And it's the same with like a chromatic passing tone, like here, or what else do we have? Chromatic approach, like here. I think this is a double chromatic approach. C, C sharp, D. So it's all about target notes, and you can address or embellish these target notes. That's the whole concept behind it. Like your target notes are like the skeleton of the line, and they can be approached in different ways and enclosed and all that stuff. Just as a quick explanation of what all of that is. So I wrote it here, enclosure of C. He then plays a C augmented arpeggio, and then goes into this, like I mentioned before, C minor, F minor, B flat 7. I put in slashes because they are all sort of related to each other. It's because of these chromatic alterations and, well, not alterations, because of the chromatic approaches and all of that stuff, the lines become pretty ambiguous. The note that's being approached and enclosed becomes an embellishment in itself for another note, and you can really pivot into different tonalities that way, which he does a lot. Moving on. Until there, that's quite a huge chunk, but it just goes on and on. That's one giant phrase. Well, it's a couple of phrases, but they morph into each other. Here we started here, which is an F sus4 arpeggio. This sus4 thing will come back quite a few times. And it's again like with the Pat Metheny thing. This gives a very contrasting sound because it's also quite a large range over which that it spans. So it starts pretty low and it goes pretty high pretty fast. So it's like, oh, whoa. And then we have this, I call it perpetual enclosures. This whole thingamajig from B flat down to F. So B flat, A flat, A, G, G flat, G, A flat, G flat, G, and then chromatically down to F. It's all like, it's basically one whole step down, half a step up, whole step down, half a step up. So it's a perpetual enclosure, and I put in Alan Holsworth next to it because it's something that he uses a lot too. And there's an example in the Zarabeth solo. Here, this thing. That's a perpetual enclosure. You know, it's that like falling down a stairs almost. And it's a very cool effect. I made a mistake. This should be B minor pentatonic. And then he goes into B major pentatonic. With enclosures, see here, or this is a double chromatic approach, and then this becomes an enclosure for this note, chromatic passing tone down to B, and then here it gets into B major, B major, B major, B major, B major. It's all B major. B7, it's a little sidestep, and then I set A flat major. Just here is a little A flat major arpeggio. You could see this as the major 7 being approached chromatically. Chromatic passing tone. And then C minor 6, which is related to F7. And then we end up in F minor. And then it stays in F minor at 9, and then here all of a sudden he introduces the flat 9. Well, actually here already. So we have an F minor at flat 9. Sibelius didn't recognize it, so I had to write it in as text and not as chord. And then E flat minor 6 at 9. He stays in there for quite a while. And then B flat 7. Again, this whole thing. I see this, for example, as F going to D with an enclosure. Chromatic passing tone, all chromatic, down to B flat, and then we have an A natural, but the A natural and the G are an enclosure for the A flat. So, and then we're in F minor. So you can see it creates a very ambiguous sound. There's a lot of notes flying by, and some notes have, if you were to play these over changes, these notes would be the target notes, and they would sound as they would hold the thing up. But like in contexts like these, where we have just a vamp and one pedal tone, well, that's kind of the fun to play around with the listener, actually. Like, you can mislead them harmonically, and which is exactly what these guys are doing. E whole tone, this thing, it's very nice. He closes off with that. It sounds like an E dominant with a flat 13 and a sharp 11. It's kind of an alien sound. All right, and then we're here. Yes. There's just so many different colors whizzing by your ears. It's awesome. So here, enclosure of the D. First chromatically up to E flat, C sharp, D. So here's your enclosure. B flat, F sharp, D, you have sharp 5 or flat 13. And then this thing, I don't know how, if it was intended to be like C going to B, or it was supposed to be a C as well, but he just misplaced his finger. It's a possibility, but it sounds cool. So we have both a 9 and a flat 9. And then the madness continues. I wrote here B flat 7, sharp 11. Which is not right. We don't have an E in there. And then it just stays, it just continues in that B flat 7 vibe. When I'm doing like these analyses or looking at these lines, I'm trying to pinpoint those important notes where these enclosures occur, because they show like here is a chord tone or here is an important note. So all these notes that are being led up to, and here this is a jumping off point, and you can just, they almost like pop out like B flat, F, F, D. So here again, D. That's like, those are the notes that make sense amidst the chaos. C sharp minor, A flat 7, if you would spell these enharmonically. That's the thing, when I'm making these things, it's not always that obvious when you're writing it down, like, oh yeah, here's this. It's like, it's afterwards when you're going through it like this that you can see, but oh yeah, it's actually this, or it's that, so some of these spellings should be different. The note is right, but it should be spelled enharmonically. I think we left off right there. Oh no, we left off here. And then we have some arpeggios. E flat major 7, A flat major 7, with a 9, and then a small snippet of F minor pentatonic. So these little, when he returns back home, you really have the sense of, oh, okay, yeah, we have something to hold on to again. This sounds familiar, or you have this outlandish, outworldish blasts of chromatically dense stuff, and all of a sudden you have this small little snippet of F minor, and it's refreshing in its familiarity, something like that. And then we're here. Yeah. So C7 or C sus2. That should be C sus4. CFG going to an C triad. And then he goes to an F sus2 with the G, C, and F. And then sus2 and, or C sus2 and 4. So D, C, G, F. And then, so this is all sounding pretty inside. And then E, F sharp, B, A, we're out of F minor. B7, sus4. B flat 7. See? Enclosure of the D. B flat, A flat, D, F. B7 sus4, yes, pretty clearly. G7 sus4, just spelled out like it is. And then I said chromatic meandering, because this is a point where I can't really make sense of all this chromaticism. Whenever I see something like this, I think, okay, probably E7, root going to the flat 7. It's a very bebop thing, going back to the roots. So it's a possibility. Here's a B, but then it just goes chromatically down to G, G, B, B flat, A flat, B. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Chromatic meandering. And then here he just goes up diatonically in F minor, F Dorian, and then here he continues the ascent with some chromatics, but still overall pretty diatonic. Then bar 49. And I just let it roll until the end. Bar 49. G7 sus4. Told you that thing would come back again and again. It's very related to pentatonics. Obviously, it's almost a pentatonic and just misses one note. It could be a G minor or it could be a D minor pentatonic. So that's why that's why it sounds open. Could be either or, but it's neither. B minor pentatonic, F sus2, and then here we have a nice string of sus4 tonalities following each other. So B, E flat, G, which is, as they say in a very fancy way, chromatic median relationship. So it's transposed in thirds, major thirds in this instance. It's the same as giant steps. B, E flat, G. That's the first 4 bars of giant steps. Well, almost. The E flat and the G should be swapped. But that's the concept. And then he goes into E sus4, C sus2 and 4, and then I labeled this as E7. So the flat 7, roots, major thirds, 5th, again 3rd, and then sharp 11. And then it's something else. Then I set A flat major 7, which is also a major third apart, like here and here. So it's plausible. And then I set B flat 7. And then we're closing off in F minor. We're back inside. Remember when we said in the playing outside concept video, you can do whatever you want as long as you just land back inside here on Earth. Here is a prime example of that. Obviously, the stuff that he is playing is absolutely not random. As you can see, there's a lot of logic you can pull out from this, be it ambiguous, but there is a logic to it. So it's not random. F minor. Yes, blue note. F minor pentatonic. And then here he states, or makes a statement, and then he repeats a statement outside, which is again a very effective thing because it ties over the motive is what connects the two together. And then from B7 he goes into D, and from the D he goes into B flat 7, 5th, enclosure of the 3rd. That's how I come up with these analyses, and then B major pentatonic F sharp. So 5, 13, root, 9, third, 5. They're all there. And then we have this chromatic thing. I made it B flat 7, so I see this as the 5 going to the third chromatically. And then it should be, this is another instance where it should be enharmonically spelled different. So F sharp going down to D sharp, and then it would make sense that it's a B7. So it's just half a step up. And he stays there. And then we're back into F minor pentatonic, F sharp, minor pentatonic, back to F minor, B minor pentatonic, B flat 7, flat 9 with a 13, and then here like a C minor thing, or an F minor 9, which I should adjust here. That's always the case with like C minor is actually an upper structure of F minor built on the 5th of F. So it's another layer of ambiguity of, okay, which one is it? They are related, so it's sometimes hard to say one begins and ends here. I would say here we're momentarily back in B flat 7 or B flat. And then here we have a F7 sus 2, and then A7 at 9, and then B flat. So I'm gonna write that in. Whoops. F minor, and then A sus 2, B flat minor at 4, G7 sus 4, B7 sus 4, G7 sus 4, B7 sus 4, all sus 4s alternating, and he's really just spelling them out. Not much ambiguity going on here. And then to close off, B flat 7, E flat minor, I would say. So 5, 11, flat 3, 9, root 9, but then it becomes a root for F minor pentatonic, which is the end. We're ending back home in F. So that's my take on this solo. What I would do with this is, well, first of all, learn to play this on guitar, because this is a keyboard solo and some of these things do not play naturally on a guitar. That's the thing when you're transcribing different instruments other than your own, like with the cannonball solo or like with this. These are things that are very playable and natural to play on a saxophone, or in this case a piano or keyboard, but they do not lay well per se on a guitar. But that's good. That's how you can break free and break free from old habits and come up with new things. And then secondly, you learn a lot about how to use chromatic enclosures and approach notes. You learn how to play outside, and he goes outside plenty, as you could see. Then, if you can recall that I mentioned using a like a schema or a blueprint for your solos. I think it was in the holistic practicing video, or maybe another. Can't remember. In one of the other analyses or tutorials, I mentioned using a schema or a blueprint. Why can't I pronounce the word? When you're practicing solos, and this is exactly that. If you just, let's say you want to practice something over an F minor vamp, you can take any part of this and use this as a guide. Like, okay, I'm gonna start in F minor, then I'm gonna play here like this Bob Burke thing, diminished thing, and I'm gonna go into B, and then I'm gonna go back to F7 sharp 9, and I'm gonna end back in F minor. And you're just gonna target this and try to apply everything within that context, and you're very consciously going from this to that, and you're really applying material in a practical way and a very pragmatic way. So that's an excellent way to practice. So that's how I would use this. And you can see I reference different artists, different solos. So things you find in other solos, you can then draw in and connect to each other. So that's how you build all of your skills and knowledge and all that stuff. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found this helpful. As always, let me know if you have any questions or remarks, and I will see you next time.